4 battleships, 6 heavy cruisers, 11 destroyers, the largest warship ever built, the Yamato, carrying shells the weight of a small car. On October 25, 1944, this armada turned its guns on 6 slow, thin-skinned escort carriers and a handful of destroyers. It should have been a massacre. It was, just not the one Japan expected. By October 1944, Japan was losing the war, and they knew it. The Americans had landed 130,000 men on the beaches of Leyte in the Philippines. If those men established a foothold, Japan's empire in the Pacific would be cut in half. So the Imperial Japanese Navy rolled the dice on a plan so audacious it bordered on desperate. They called it Shogo 1. The idea was elegant in its brutality. Admiral Ozawa's carrier fleet, now little more than empty shells with barely any aircraft left, would sail south as bait. Their entire purpose, lure Admiral Halsey and his powerful Third Fleet away from Leyte. And it worked perfectly. Halsey took the bait. He chased Ozawa's decoys north with every fast battleship and fleet carrier he had. Behind him, the door to Leyte Gulf swung wide open. What happened next was supposed to be simple. A column of Japanese warships, the most powerful surface fleet still afloat, would steam through San Bernardino Strait, turn south, and destroy everything on the beach. No American force could stop them. Except one accidentally got in the way. At 3 a.m. on October 25th, Admiral Takeo Kurita led his center force through the strait and into open water. 4 battleships, including the Yamato, the largest warship ever constructed, 6 heavy cruisers with 8-inch guns, 11 destroyers, a fleet displacing more tonnage than some nations' entire navies. Steaming 60 miles east of Samar, completely unaware, was Task Unit 77.4.3. The Americans called it Taffy 3. 6 escort carriers, slow, unarmored, built on merchant ship hulls. 3 destroyers, 4 destroyer escorts. Their job was anti-submarine patrols and dropping bombs on beaches. Their biggest gun was 5 inches, a weapon that could not penetrate the armor of a single Japanese ship bearing down on them. The Yamato alone displaced more than every ship in Taffy 3 combined. At 6:37 a.m., a pilot flying anti-submarine patrol spotted the pagoda masts of Japanese battleships on the horizon. When he radioed the sighting to Rear Admiral Clifton Sprague, Sprague didn't believe him. He demanded confirmation. The pilot flew closer. "I can see the biggest meatball flag on the biggest battleship I ever saw." Minutes later, colored geysers erupted around the escort carriers, pink from the Nagato, blood red from the Congo, green-yellow from the Haruna. Each geyser a 14-inch shell weighing over 1,400 pounds, fired from 20 miles away. Taffy 3 had stumbled into the path of the entire Japanese center force, and there was no one coming to help.
Any rational assessment of this situation leads to one conclusion. Taffy 3 should have been annihilated in minutes. Every ship sunk, every man killed. Instead, what followed would be called the greatest last stand in naval history. Admiral Sprague had no good options. His carriers could only make 18 knots. The Japanese cruisers could do 35. He couldn't outrun them. He couldn't outgun them. He couldn't even scratch their armor. So he did the only thing left. He ordered his escorts to attack. The first ship to move was the USS Johnston, a Fletcher-class destroyer under Commander Ernest E. Evans. Evans was half Cherokee, half Creek, and entirely fearless. When he'd first taken command of the Johnston, he told his crew, "This is going to be a fighting ship. I intend to go in harm's way. Anyone who doesn't want to go along had better get off right now." Nobody got off. Without waiting for orders, Evans turned the Johnston directly toward the Japanese fleet and charged at flank speed. 1 destroyer against 4 battleships and 6 heavy cruisers. At 10 miles, he opened fire with his 5-inch guns. The shells bounced off Japanese armor like gravel thrown at a freight train. It didn't matter. He kept firing. At 5 miles, he launched all 10 torpedoes. 1 struck the heavy cruiser Kumano, blowing her bow clean off and knocking her out of the fight. The torpedo spread forced the battleship Yamato to turn away, and that turn took the most powerful warship in the world out of the battle for nearly 10 critical minutes. Then the Japanese hit back. 3 14-inch and 3 6-inch shells slammed into the Johnston in a single salvo. The bridge was destroyed. Evans lost 2 fingers. The engine room was wrecked, cutting speed in half. Evans wrapped his hand in a rag and kept fighting. He steered the crippled Johnston back into the Japanese formation again, firing at cruisers, laying smoke to cover the fleeing carriers behind him.
The Johnston fought for 2.5 hours. When she finally sank, her guns were still firing. Of her 327 crew, 186 went down with her, Evans among them. A Japanese destroyer captain was seen saluting her as she slipped beneath the waves. The Johnston wasn't alone. The destroyers Hoel and Heermann and the tiny destroyer escort Samuel B. Roberts followed her into the teeth of the Japanese fleet. The Roberts, nicknamed the destroyer escort that fought like a battleship, closed to within 4,000 yards of a heavy cruiser and fired every round she had before Japanese shells tore her apart. Meanwhile, the escort carriers launched everything. Wildcats strafing with machine guns, Avengers dropping bombs, some planes flying empty attack runs just to force the Japanese to turn and evade. When the bombs ran out, pilots made dry passes, diving at battleships with nothing to drop, because even the bluff forced evasive maneuvers. And then something extraordinary happened, something historians still debate. Admiral Kurita, who had not slept in 3 days, who had already been fished out of the ocean once after his first flagship was torpedoed, who was receiving fragmented reports of air attacks from every direction, looked at the chaos around him and made a decision that would haunt Japan forever. He turned around. At 9:20 a.m., Kurita ordered his fleet to withdraw north. Leyte Gulf, with 130,000 American soldiers on the beach and a bay full of defenseless transport ships, was barely 2 hours steaming away. He later called it a mistake of exhaustion. 3 days without sleep, conflicting intelligence. The ferocity of Taffy 3's resistance had convinced him he was fighting fleet carriers and heavy cruisers, not escort carriers and destroyers. He believed Halsey's Third Fleet was closing fast and he'd be trapped. He was wrong. There was nothing between his guns and the beach. Japan had designed the perfect trap, executed it flawlessly, lured away the strongest fleet in the Pacific, put the most powerful surface force afloat within striking distance of a defenseless beachhead, and a handful of sailors in the smallest ships of the American Navy made them turn around. The Battle of Samar cost America 2 escort carriers, 2 destroyers, 1 destroyer escort, and over 1,000 men. Commander Ernest received the Medal of Honor posthumously, the first Native American in the Navy to do so. Fleet Admiral Chester Nimitz wrote afterward that what Taffy 3 accomplished was nothing short of special dispensation from the Lord Almighty. But it wasn't divine intervention. It was something more human than that. It was men in thin-hulled ships choosing to charge at battleships because the alternative, doing nothing while 13,000 of their brothers died on a beach, was simply unthinkable. The Battle of Leyte Gulf ended Japan's ability to fight as a naval power. The Imperial Japanese Navy never sailed in force again. But the moment that decided it all wasn't a clash of titans. It was the smallest ships in the fleet, crewed by men who refused to calculate the odds. If you want to hear the story of what happened at the other end of this trap, how Halsey took the bait and nearly lost the Pacific, that story is coming next. Subscribe so you don't miss it.